This is the Cloud Atlas Sextet?
I doubt there's more than a handful of copies in all of North America.
But I know it. I know it.
That's it. The music from my dream.
There are whole movements I wrote imagining us meeting again and again in different lives, in different ages.
I can't explain it, but I knew when I opened that door.
A powerful deja vu ran through my bones. I heard it in a dream. I was in a nightmarish cafe, and the waitresses, they all had the same face.
Boy, the Wachowskis found a disguise kit and went crazy, didn't they?
They did.
And they went to the Halloween shop and said, shit, let's make a movie.
They made Halloween the movie again.
Shit, they made Costume Shop the movie. You know, this is a 3-hour movie, and I will praise it right off the bat. I didn't notice the 3 hours. That was a big thing. These days, I hate to say it. I know some people say, well, like, you should love movies and not worry about the time. Fuck you. We spend a lot of time in theaters. I don't need to spend any more time in there than I do.
Looking over at you, I was just like, you know what? I'm really digging this. Even like, but I know normally me and you to even more of a degree are like, I got so much shit to do. Don't keep me in your movie past 2 hours.
I'm not
'cause I'll be
watching.
mad.
I'm not watching anything that's 2 hours plus unless fucking Batman's in.
Or Hobbits.
That's it.
Or
yeah.
Hobbits. You see, that's the thing is, we watch so many movies, I almost feel like filmmakers should have to submit to a committee and be approved to have a movie longer than 90 minutes. Because otherwise, you're just fucking with the
Yeah, they need
audience.
to call me and say, what's your schedule today?
Yeah.
Or anytime after that. You know, I mean, yeah.
Is that selfish? It sounds a little selfish, but we'll go with it. Yes.
I always I keep thinking like in your head, or maybe it's going to be out loud. A movie's going to hit that 2 hour mark, and you just hear a loud ding. Corey just stands up and goes like, "All right, I am out of here."
And my time is done.
Brian, if you can't tell, Corey's a very busy man.
I kept wondering why every time there's a movie longer than 90 minutes, he goes, "You let me know how it ends," and then he just leaves.
You can talk to my dust cloud.
Here's my video camera. Film that shit for me.
Nah, man, I'm sorry. I really, and I'm sorry if I feel this way, but I really do think that it's inconsiderate that filmmakers think that they can just make 3 hour movies and impede on my time. Yeah. But since the Wachowskis did it, I went ahead and stayed, and plus I love The Matrix, and I said I got to give them that.
You did? All of them?
The Matrix.
The Matrix.
I didn't say The Matrix 2. I said
There are no
Matrix 3.
sequels to it.
Not the Matrices.
Yeah. No. But let me explain to people, because I'm reading up on this movie. I mean, I knew nothing about this beforehand, except that, man, there's a lot of people in this movie.
There's a shitload of people in this movie.
Actually, there's only 6 people. They just keep playing different roles.
Yeah.
Oh, well, fooled me.
Yeah. Okay, let me rephrase that. There's a lot of characters in this movie.
Yeah.
But let me tell people a little bit about why this is 3 hours long. So, this is based on a novel that came out in 2004. Now, I'm reading about this. This is nothing I knew anything about. That came out in 2004 by this guy, David Mitchell. There are 6 different stories that I'm looking at here that all intertwine and interweave with each other, and they take place throughout time. And they take on different characteristics. Some are science fiction. Some are periodic dramas. Some of them are present-day comedies. And the movie does the same thing that the book does. It manages to take these in and weave these stories together while have certain characters have an impact on what happens in the stories that proceed after that. And I thought that this movie was a great attempt at bringing that vision forward. I don't know what the book is like, but this movie it's a rare kind of film for me because since it's so long and filled with so much material, at certain times it's brilliant, and at other times it's a disaster.
Yeah, it starts to buckle under the pressure of all these storylines.
Yeah, that horse can't carry all that weight.
Yeah, pretty much trying to converge into one. At least you're assuming it will. But yeah, I mean, I think it does suffer from that. But you know what? I have to disagree with you. I thought it was a little too damn long. It did bother me after a while. I was like, towards the end, I was like, all right, I'm kind of ready for this to wrap up.
Why do you guys think this movie is called Cloud Atlas? It's because they take all these stories and pile it on one movie's back until that movie's like, oh, I'm holding up the whole goddamn world.
It's funny you say that, though. Why do we think it's called? It was called Cloud Atlas? Because the whole time I was wondering, why isn't it called Slanty Eyes the movie? I mean,
See, I thought it was
Wow. They didn't want want to piss off a fifth of the Earth's population.
I think that's because they wanted the movie to be released. They didn't want to be called racist.
Well, you know what? I have to admit though,
like this site.
there's a few Asian people that walked out of the screening I was at, and they were like, "Man, that movie is fucking racist."
I will say this, co-host. All of a sudden, my joke about this sounding like a Microsoft product seems a little too tame.
Yeah. By the way,
Thank you.
They're making a sequel called Big Lips Black Ass. look for it. Next
I'll be there for that. That sounds like a Tyler Perry production.
Okay, I didn't say that. I was not the one that made the Tyler Perry joke.
but you thought it. No, you know what? Here's something else. I want to get this out the way, too. Now, we're talking about how the book influences the movie. The movie itself has a lot of people. Now, Leon, you're saying there's not that many people in here. There's a shitload of people in this movie as the main cast. So we can get it out the way, I'm just going to read them off. And maybe we'll refer to them later on in the review. But you have Tom Hanks, Halle Berry, Jim Broadbent, Hugo Weaving, Jim Sturgis, Duna Bay, Ben Whishaw, James Darcy. Now, I'm going to get some names I don't even know how the fuck to say. Zhu Zun, Keith David, one of my favorite voices ever. David Gayassi, Susan Sarandon, and days before they even started shooting, like 48 hours before, they got Hugh Grant to come in. So that's a large cast. Now, take each one of these people and multiply them times 10. Because they play several different characters in the movie. And again, to some great effect and to also laughable effect in other areas. I mean, to downright, man, that's horrible.
Did you mention Hugo Weaving?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who again, is going to come out and talk shit? Well, that movie's really beneath me, but I went ahead and did it because I got paid.
No, I love that they paid him to play Mrs. Doubtfire in the movie. So
Well, well, clearly the Wachowski brothers have decided that, like,
Wachowski Starship.
Okay. Right.
One of them is a girl now.
That's right. The Wachowskis have decided that they want to let everybody know that Hugo Weaving is evil. He has been around since the dawn of time, all through history and the future, making sure that you don't get over on the man. Are you got some kind of, are you trying to rebel against society? Well, Hugo Weaving is there to stop you.
Evil Weaving.
Because each and one of these stories, through the Matrix, and each and one of these stories, he keeps popping up as like Mr. Anderson.
Oh, yeah. You thought he was bad as Agent Smith. In this movie, he plays several bad people, ranging from a voodoo-looking magic man to
Wait, is that not the Green Goblin? I thought he was playing the Green Goblin.
I know it was kind of like that.
He showed up to be in a Tom Petty video, but he was too late.
All the way to well, it's supposed to be a woman, but it looks like a big ass evil transvestite working at a nursing home. To a slave master who's like, if you like slavery, then get the fuck out of my house. Or as he says, if you like slavery, then fuck you. He didn't actually say that, but yeah, there's several people in this movie.
Sorry, I'm laughing at your Hugo Weaving accent.
I know. I believe me. I know I can't do any accents, and that's part of the charm, bro.
Every time I hear your impression, I feel I've been infected by it.
Hey, wait till you hear my Agent Smith, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
Why is Agent Smith drunk?
Mr. Anderson. The fuck is your deal?
How did you get in this movie?
Well, you can stop bullets. Big fucking deal.
I hired your ass too.
That's also my Jack Nicholson, by the way. But you know what? I know that we all have a lot to say, and I'm really happy with all the different opinions here because I know where I'm probably more in line with co-host over here. But I think, Leon, you and Brian enjoyed this very much.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about Brian, but yeah, I really love the movie. For me, it's funny because I was like, wow, every so often a movie comes along that everybody loves, and I think I'm going to love it, and I don't. Moulin Rouge, I thought I was going to love that. Did not. Heat, I know everybody loves Heat. Did not.
What?
But then
he said he didn't like Heat. Turn the volume up, co-host.
Thank you, Brian. But then when I saw Chicago, I said, like, okay, that's what I wanted from Moulin Rouge. They did it. When I saw The Town, I was like, that's what I wanted from Heat. And everybody loves The Fifth Element, which I don't.
But what about Cloud Atlas?
But when I saw Cloud
No, I'm fucking with you, man. Go ahead.
Wow, see, this is why you didn't like Cloud Atlas, because you have no attention span whatsoever.
You have no taste for terrible movies.
Yeah. After about 45 minutes, you're like, well, damn, this is still on? Shit. But for me, I was like, wow, watch this. Like, you know what? When people talk about how much they love The Fifth Element, this is what I wanted to see, and this was really doing it for me. The thing is, I thought, you know, in the beginning, it's like, you know, those 6 stories that you're juggling and all the characters. From the first 20 minutes, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't see how this is gelling. But then I was like, wow, I really fell in love with each one of the stories. And it was one of these things when they would cut from one to go to the next. Normally, there'd be a story that I would like, and something like this, I would love that story and go like, no, go back. But every time they would go to a new one, I was like, okay, period piece. I'm into this. I'm digging this now. Oh, the future. Okay. Oh, post-apocalyptic. Okay. Back to another to 1975. There was never a time when I was bored in this movie. I really enjoyed every part of it, and probably the thing I enjoyed the most was how ambitious it was. I mean, it really went all out on a movie that there's no way it can recoup the money they spent on it. But thank God there's somebody still willing to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. It's one of the most singularly impressive cinematic undertakings that in recent memory. And I love the idea of a movie that plays with the dynamics of storytelling, because that's what movies, like all art forms, really are, is storytelling. And I like the way that they're basically telling one unified story, and if you break it down almost like the movements of a symphony, it's like, okay, this is the incarceration, and this is the discovery, and this is the escape, and all they do is they change the set dressing, but they're telling one story. And I think that's why they do the thing with the actors, where it's like underneath all that makeup, they're the same people, and that's the exact same way with the narrative. It's like if you take away all of the trappings and all of the visuals underneath, it's telling the same story, the same beats of the same story all the way through, and then it's just kind of changing how it looks from era to era, and I think that's brilliant.
No, it's stupid. I'm kidding.
Well,
No.
okay, I like your point about it, you know, being like music, like being composed music, where
Come on, you didn't understand what he said.
I'm gonna explain.
I didn't understand what I said. What the fuck did I say?
Ghost, I didn't understand either. Ghost, I was in the pit. When I get quiet, that means I don't understand.
Like, we're all dead silent. Sure, what Brian said. Yeah.
You know what? I think I like chocolate chip better than vanilla. Now
Well,
that I think about
let me break it down to you. All right?
Yes.
Like you said, music. I see, for me, watching this movie, I noticed the notes more than I did the actual music. And for me, especially with a movie that is so long, that it does take about 30 minutes to really understand what is going on. Because, I mean, it's not like they give you any kind of real introduction into any of these characters. It's just thrusted upon you. So you're sitting there, and you're not going to be bored because you're too busy going, this is the Wachowskis. Oh, this is some fucking Matrix shit again. Okay, I got to understand, because I don't want to be the one leaving this theater going, I didn't get it.
You don't want all the critics talking about, well, look at that dumbass right there.
Co-host, so what you're saying is you couldn't see the woods for all of the Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Because Tom Hanks looked like a fucking wood.
Yes, exactly.
He looked like a piece of wood.
See, it's not that here's my problem. See, I had no problem with the running time.
you admit that right off the bat.
Right off the bat. I mean, and it's hard not to be interested, not to be curious what they're going to do next, because whether you're laughing at it or you think they did a good job at it, you want to see who's going to pop up in what role next.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some more
That's part of it.
That's some more Wizard of Oz shit, if you ask me. But
Belief, like fear or love, is a force to be understood as we understand the theory of relativity and principles of uncertainty, phenomena that determine the course of our lives. Yesterday, my life was headed in one direction. Today, it is headed in another. Yesterday, I believed I would never have done what I did today. These forces that often remake time and space, that can shape and alter who we imagine ourselves to be, begin long before we are born and continue after we perish.
But no, listen. My biggest problem is that there seems to be this lofty message that they want to convey here that's interconnecting these stories. And I just looked back and I started putting a movie together, or at least the stories together in my head. Again, I don't know how it's portrayed in the books, but each of these stories that I saw in the movie, if you were to take them and put them by themselves, not weave them in with each other, and not have all these characters playing different characters in different periods, I don't think that except for maybe one that I found pretty interesting, but I don't think any of them are really all that heavy. In fact, I think some of them are pretty weak. I mean, one of the stories that I enjoyed, but if I saw it as even as a 30-minute short, I'd be like, this is a little bit goofy. Is the one with Jim Broadbent, who plays a 65-year-old guy who's by his brother locked up in a nursing home and can't and is not allowed to leave. And I thought that, okay, that's kind of cool. It even had a great beginning too.
Yeah. It played like an episode of Benny Hill.
Yeah,
I mean,
it did. It was cute, but at the same time not really heavy. And it got to the point where it was really goofy, almost to the point where it was TV type of storytelling goofy. I think that it's not that, again, some of these do work. I thought that Tom Hanks, his main role was playing a guy in the future, like a post-apocalyptic future, but half of humanity has seemed to advanced, and the other half has gone back into more primitive times. And he plays a guy who's a farmer / hunter / warrior when he has to be, and I found it fascinating, just the language that they had to speak. I was like, oh, you know what? This is kind of cool. Maybe this is how language would evolve if we were actually kicked back into a more basic way of living. But some other stories are great too. As far as that premise goes, I found the story of are they clones?
Yeah, that's what they
fabricants.
like.
Yeah, fabricants. Yeah, the ones that are meant to. They're human beings. We think in the trailer, you think they're androids or robots, but they're people who have just been cloned to serve. I mean, you have the elite
to work minimum wage jobs, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they work in fast food, and that's what they say. The consumer.
Yeah,
the consumer's king. Your job is to please the consumer, not the elite, but that dude that goes to get a Whopper.
Yeah,
you know?
And we gotta have a hot Korean waitress for a guy going to get a Big Mac.
Yeah, and what's wrong with that?
Yeah,
and that was one of the main stories, honestly, that I wish. For me, like, there's plenty to choose from. Either there's some stories that you really just can't get into, but there are others that are really fascinating that you wish you'd see more of. And that one, the Korean one, was the futuristic one, where it's like they're taking a page from the Matrix world that they created. You know, they brought that over to their future, because if you pay attention, you'll see some of the stuff, like their technology is almost the same as what you saw in the Matrix. But I mean, the story of someone realizing that they are a slave. I mean, stories like that are always great.
It was Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, it's a Planet of the Apes.
Where they were
deal.
like, freeing the minimum wage lettuce cutters.
And that was like one of the main stories that I really gravitated towards, because I really liked the characters, even though they had a white guy with, Jerry Lewis makeup on playing a Korean guy. And I have to admit, though, I mean, I'm mentioning that because another issue that I had with the movie is I thought some of the special effects makeup I wasn't really all that impressed with.
And if I had any, honestly, my only negative about it is that the makeup, the quality of it isn't consistent. Where some of it is really good, and there's others that's not. Like, to the point to where all the guys who are not Korean, the makeup on them made them look more like Klingons than actual Korean people.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
but it's a trade-off where I was like, you know what? I understand that maybe they don't have the money or the technology to get it right, but it is important to have these actors in these roles. So, it's I don't know. It's a trade-off I was willing to make.
And there's another trade-off there, in that some actors are so well disguised under the makeup and blend in so well that you don't even know that actor is playing that character. It becomes like a game of Where's Waldo with the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait, there's Hugh Grant. That's it, you guys, right there. He's behind that red shoe. He's right there.
Yeah. Everyone with the exception of Hugo Weaving. Every time, Hugo Weaving still looks like Hugo Weaving when they dress him up as Robin Williams as Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm like, that is that motherfucker. Or when they have him as old Greg. I'm old Greg.
He looked like he had a mangina. He did. That's what he. God damn it, that's who he looked like. He looked like old Greg. He was
Old Smoke or something like that.
Yeah, he looked like actually a couple of characters off the Mighty Boosh, but Hugo Weaving has that fucking jaw that you can't. I mean, he could be doing voices for a cartoon, and it's still gonna look like
one dark ass cartoon.
Yeah. He has a face only the Wachowskis can love.
See, that's the thing. Maybe that's another thing. As some of these stories that have the potential to be powerful, Maybe that's why the one with Tom Hanks didn't bother me that much because
Wait,
that's
which one with Tom Hanks?
Well,
He's
I'm
an
sorry.
uncle.
The one that I mentioned, the post-apocalyptic one, the one that's the bookend of this movie, the bookend. Bookends of this movie. It's he opens up with excellent makeup. They make him look old and aged, and and I thought that was exceptional, man. And then, but in every story except for that one, somebody has some bad makeup on, man, and it just fucking ruined the experience for me.
It takes you out.
Especially, now, this is nothing against Asian people at all, but no matter how much shit you put on an Asian person's face, they gonna look Asian no matter what. And that's where the movie is disastrous to me. They're trying to make Asian people look like white people. You look Asian. You know how they try to make black people look like white people in makeup, and you still look black.
They made Keith David. They turned him into a Korean Keith David.
Yeah, it is.
Keith David.
Yeah.
That'd be Japanese Keith David.
I mean, something you guys probably won't even consider, but it's in the future where races have been mixing at some point. But the fabricants all look very Korean because, well, they're clones.
Yeah, but you know what? They should have just gone to that dollar store where they have all those cheap gag gifts and got the Japanese eyes and
Like
with
the glasses with the Japanese eyes.
Yeah. I mean, because those would have looked better.
To get released.
See, that's the thing, man. It's
Don't
like
turn co-host loose with a camera.
no, I am. I'm gonna be way far away from him, but I am. But you see, there's a part where
Don't release a movie called Crowd at Risk. Don't do that. That's just racist.
It's going to happen, Brody.
I wish Tony. I totally wish that co-host had been the makeup guy on this job because your makeup kit would have been here. Put these slanty-eyed glasses on. Oh, and don't forget your fake buck teeth.
I know. I'd have Jerry Lewis distribute all those.
Wait a minute, let me slap some yellow paint on. You know, you'd have them looking like a goddamn Simpsons character.
Looking good.
Oh, no, not talk like this.
Pocket right wrist.
Hey, sexy girlfriend.
That's just long duck wrong.
Cloud racist. Co-host 3000 production.
Excellent film.
But man, they have a scene where they try to make they try to make one Asian girl look like a white woman in colonial times, and it's like that's not working, man. And
Well,
then
she didn't look Asian. She just looked odd.
she looked like a mutant. And then they try to make one of the Asian characters into a Hispanic character. I think just flat out Mexican.
Yeah, and she just looks Filipino.
Yeah.
She looks. In fact, when she tries to do a Latino accent, she sounds like she's speaking Korean.
Yeah, it's like, man, just give her a goddamn sombrero to put on and just leave it at that.
I better yet, just get a Mexican.
Yeah, you know what? Hugo Weaving, he plays a character during the old. There's an old people skit, I guess, going on in the movie.
You were awake in this movie.
I was awake. No. But the storyline involving the old people trying to get out of the nursing home. Hugo Weaving plays this asshole nurse.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was wondering, he's kind of playing this character for comic relief more than anything. But
Right.
Well, that whole story is supposed to be comedic.
And I get it, but I'm like, but why did they need him to dress up as a woman? It didn't really do anything for the story.
And that segment actually speaks to my biggest problem with the movie, in that there are all of these, again, going with the whole like unified story thing, like there are all these ways that they dovetail one segment into the other, where they'll have like something that connects the two of them, like one person will be in water and then the next one will start with somebody in water, like these interesting dovetails. But my problem with the storyline with Jim Broadbent trying to escape from the nursing home is that it's immediately dovetailed into a very tense thriller type scenario, and tonally that just, it's too jarring. It's like, okay, stop, slow down. I don't understand what you want me to feel if you immediately go from uplifting comedy to tense crime thriller, like without any kind of interstitial moment. It's just boom, boom, you're there.
You're right.
Really? That was a stutter for you?
It did, and because none of the other ones felt like that. To me, like they weren't divergent enough in tone from one to the next, except for that one segment, that it was like, oh wait, it's not a huge problem, but I felt like all the other segments, even if they were different in terms of style or tone, they weren't so separated that when you stacked one against the other, that it caused you to kind of stop and go, wait, what?
Well, but I don't know, because by that point, they were all hitting what, each storyline's third act was, and one was, I don't know. They were destined to go where they were. I don't know. That didn't bother me because like the way they were juggling the stories, I expected that would be one of the things that would happen.
Right, because you're right. That they're in the escape portion of all the storylines,
Yeah.
so it makes sense that they would all happen at that time. My problem is you can rearrange them, since that's the whole point of the movie, is that you have these sections of parts of the story that are going on and told in these different eras. Just rearrange it so that one's not right next to that other one.
And Corey, as to your question as to how it is in the book, it isn't so much like doing the round robin the way they do in the movie.
Did you read it?
No, I was reading about it.
Okay.
And about how they start with one story and tell it about halfway, and then it'll be like, okay, the character from the next story is reading that book or watching that movie.
Yeah, I had read that, and actually, that's one of the things that I thought when I read that they had done that, because there was one point where I was wondering if I was seeing it correctly.
Yeah.
That one character was watching another character's story, but as a movie, and I thought, hey, that's actually pretty clever, and I wondered if they did that in the book. And when I read about it, I was like, okay, that seems like that's a successful translation right there.
I mean, I feel like, not having read the book, I don't know, because it's supposed to be one of those books because it's so big and does all these stories that everybody was like, this is unfilmable. I feel like they found a way to do it, but also decided like, hey, rather than make it fun for us, we're gonna like mix these around and keep them going in a way. I don't. For me, I was just really enjoying the fact that it wasn't being laid out the way I'm used to it. I wasn't there predicting what was going to happen next. And just when I was in one thing, it would jump to the next, and it was like a new treat. This outside of like my comparison to The Fifth Element, which is only slight, there's nothing else I can compare it to. And I can't tell you how much that means to me, especially with the crop of movies we've seen lately.
No, look, the ambition should be rewarded here. Sometimes you say nobody should be rewarded just for trying to achieve something. Did they succeed or did they fail? I mean, I never subscribe to that because that's too cut and dry. And I feel like that's the case with this movie. I mean, because one of the things I can criticize it for is I love that they were able to get so many different looks all in one film. I mean, again, it's a period piece in several cases. I mean, it's a science fiction film, and they were. I just thought that to get all this stuff down. I mean, if nothing else, the cinematography is epic in this.
Yeah.
The cinematography is epic. The ambition is that's admirable. But I just felt like in the main place where it really mattered was in the stories. They just got silly, and it didn't help that they were doing all these goofy costume changes. I mean, some of them just don't work. Halle Berry she appears in several different roles where I didn't think it was necessary. That's one point where she's playing a man, and I'm sitting up there laughing the whole time, and I'm thinking, I don't know who that is, but that person, that's just stupid makeup right there.
And I was wondering, is that the female Wachowski getting a little out of control with, hey, if I'm going to change, everyone else should change
sex
too.
changes for everybody.
Let's get on the change.
You get a sex change.
Yeah.
You get a sex change. You get a sex.
Because it makes the film kind of unjarring because you're soaking in so much information, yet you're trying to pay attention to these storylines. But I mean, I'll give the film credit. I mean, for juggling all this. It was coherent. I mean, there wasn't a moment where I'm just like, okay, I've completely given up.
I was never bored.
Yeah, there's a lot of storylines in here that actually worked. There's a lot of really great performances in this movie that I can't take it away from that. But like my issue with let's say the second Matrix movie, I noticed it a lot here where the material seemed like they were really trying to make it way smarter than it actually was. I mean, there's parts in here with editing gets a little too crazy, where they're trying to make everything kind of match to the tone of what's going on in each story, but at the same time, it's started to lose me for a bit.
Actually, Brian mentioned that, and I thought that was kind of cool, where there are certain segments in these stories where characters are introduced. We go through the introduction of every character. The plot thickens, and we find out what is going on with the complications of these stories. And then, like you were saying, you get to the chase, and all the chase scenes are all actually coinciding with each other. I thought that was good. Listen, there's a lot here that's just silly. that could have made an epic movie. Some of the performances, you saying all the performances are great. I thought some of the performances were great, and even with these great actors, I thought some of them were just also a little silly too.
Yeah, I will
Tom
admit,
Hanks
Tom
comes in,
Hanks.
yeah.
Tom Hanks comes to mind when you say that.
Yeah.
Where he did a great job, I think, with playing the post-apocalyptic stuff. There was some stuff where he was on that pirate ship or whatever, where I thought, okay, he's hamming it up a bit too much. He's making it so cartoony that I can't buy into the
They're
motivation.
trying to make
of this
these
character.
characters so large for stories that aren't that deep. At least in my opinion. Listen, I just get right down to it. Like I said, it's a 3-hour movie. There's something to recommend people to see this film for because of some of the things that they do succeed at. But even then, I just don't think it's very good. I think it still averages out as just an average film to me that tried and failed so much that it brought itself down. I would still give it a matinee, but it's a really low matinee.
Okay. Well, for me, everything worked. I mean, with the exceptions of the
You
of the
look at me
makeup.
like okay. Fuck you then.
Yeah, I don't want to saying like I completely disagree with you, but I disagree with a lot you said. But it comes on a personal level. You know, for you, those things didn't work, and for me, they were working, and I was surprised that they were working. I was like, wow. Normally, when somebody tries to do something like this, it can't stand up. It won't do it. And I was surprised by how much everything had me captivated. I had to pee in the middle of it, and my bladder almost bust because I just couldn't find a place where I wanted to get up and leave.
I was wondering why that cup I knocked over smelled like piss.
That wasn't
There
why.
was a point where I was like, I may have to pee my pants, but so be it. I'm not missing any of this movie. And the fact that somebody was willing to go out on a limb and do this, but that every part of it, at least for me, it really worked. And I never thought any of it was silly outside of the things they wanted to make as comedy.
Not even one smidgen of it you didn't think was silly?
No, I mean, okay, you have Tom Hanks playing a Cockney, and that was kind of like, that's okay. That's
a smidgen.
That's a smidgen. Okay, I'll give you
I think his name was
Admit to
Smidgen,
that,
in fact.
but it's one of those where like
smidgen.
like his performance is kind of over the top and yeah, a smidgen silly, but then that scene has a great ending. It's just like, oh shit, okay, well, that's fine. Okay, keep it going. The movie managed to stay interesting the entire time, and I'm so glad I saw it. It's it's one of these movies where I know it's not gonna be everybody's cup of tea. I mean, a lot of people are gonna be knocked out because it's 3 hours. Some people are not gonna be able to follow it. Some people will be like, well, I like this story, but not that story. And that's okay. I'm like, I'm just glad somebody made a movie that was for me, that one that I had to sit there and try to figure out and not go like, okay, this happens next, this happens next, this happens next. It was a real treat, and for me, it's a enthusiastic full price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to agree. For me, I think there are two ways to look at this movie. One is to break down all of its individual components and judge them individually, or the other way is to kind of to judge how it comes together and kind of the like musical confluence of it. And for me, that is how it works the best. And as one complete story, I think it's beautiful. It's as we were saying, the cinematography is absolutely breathtaking. The ambition cannot be ignored. I mean, this is an independently funded film that looks
German companies funded this.
It's
right?
independently funded, and it's a huge budget movie. I mean, usually you think of an independent film as being on this like shoestring budget, but this is a big budget movie that was
I'm
independently
glad you
funded.
brought that up because this is the kind of script where studios will say, fuck no, we ain't
Right,
making
exactly.
this. You got your goddamn mind?
Right.
You better go make another Matrix before you make this shit.
So it's got that
It was
going
good.
for it, and hopefully it will encourage people to kind of go after this same scope of film in the future. And I think you have a lot of performances in this movie that are really outstanding, and the whole experience of it. I love the kind of the theme of it. This weird sort of Zen Buddhist concept of your life and everything that you do in your life extending, before your birth even, and then after you die. And what's interesting about that is when you think about some of the individual stories, I did want to see where they began and then where they went after that. So I felt like that was an interesting way to tie that theme into the stories themselves. I'm giving this a very enthusiastic full price.
Copycat.
Yes. I copied everything Leon just said.
Your boyfriend Leon over there.
Well, I mean, that's the best way to describe it. As far as anybody just curious about what to expect, it is like a really long piece of music. There's going to be some parts that you absolutely love and some parts that you absolutely hate, especially when you hear the trombone go brrr, and you're just like, what, huh? What happened?
when the goofy tuba comes in.
Yeah.
Hey, man, don't put down a goofy tuba. You ever listen to Herb Alpert at Tijuana Brass?
Is that tuba? co-host
yeah,
anyway. I'm glad we stopped for that.
We start
I ain't
solo
tell you to
again.
stop.
Trying to figure out who the goofy tuba in the movie is.
I can understand why you love this movie now. No, but I mean, there was parts that worked, and there was other parts that I think just it kind of got out of control with the directors, where I've always had issues with them with the Wachowskis trying to do these big epic stories, to where sure the ideas are always interesting and you can sit there for days just thinking about it, yet the execution sometimes they fumble the ball a few times. And for me, it seems like the beginning it took too long to really get into, but once I started to realize, okay, now I understand these stories, the characters did become more interesting, more likable, and and the ending, I liked how everything was kind of starting to wrap up, yet I still felt a bit unsatisfied with the ending. I really did. But it's going to be one of those movies that people are going to be debating about.
Oh, yeah.
I can see
And
it
they'll be
already.
split on
I
it.
can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're completely split. So I mean, I'm in the middle. I'm giving it a matinee. Maybe if I see it again, which I don't really have the urge to, maybe I may like it a little bit more. I don't know. With movies like this, I mean, that tends to happen with films like this with so much going on that maybe I'll see something I didn't the first time.
I have a
around.
feeling. I would love to see how I feel about this if I catch it on TV one day. Like, will I appreciate this more, or will I think back and say, man, I should have given this a
No,
more
because you'll just
rating.
use your TiVo to fast forward through the goddamn thing.
I'll sleep through half of it.
Yeah, you won't be paying attention to it anyway.
Fast forward to all the Chinese ice parts.
By the way, through this whole review, Tom Twyker's been standing behind us. I directed this too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I did something.
Sit down.
Yeah, shut up, kid.
Our lives are not our own. We are bound to others, past and present. And by each crime and every kindness, we birth our future.